Welcome to A Celtic State of Mind. I'm Paul John Dykes, and today I am joined by a Northern Pros, the analogiser, Kevin Graham. Kevin, I said before we came on there, this is going to be a positive post-match, is it not, after a performance like that?
It's got to be positive, eh? That was like the pyjamas that your gran gets you for Christmas, eh? Really, really comfortable, eh? Absolutely comfortable that was. There's so many positives today. You've got Frimpong, you've got Sorrow, you've got Turnbull, you've got the link up between Eddie and Griff. There were so many good things. It was like, see, sometimes when you come to watch Celtic, it's a bit like watching only an excuse, eh? You're just basically hoping that we're going to be great, hoping it's going to be funny. And the day was one of the days. That first half was that first half was brilliant. That first half was really the energy, the positivity, and the movement of the ball was great. Really, really good. We kind of dropped in the second half, but I think the injury to Julian kind of knocked us back a bit for a wee while. But the last 15 minutes, your Sorrow was unplayable on that right-hand side, and no Sorrow, so Frimpong was unplayable on that right-hand side. And we should have had plenty of goals. 3-0 actually flatter. 3-0 actually flatters Dundee United. And I'm going to say this, Dundee United have been the best side we've played in the last 7 days. Dundee United are a far better side than Hearts. Dundee United are a far better side than Ross County and Hamilton. Mm-hmm. So I'm well chuffed today. I'm well chuffed.
No, I would agree with that. I think at half-time, I made the point that I was as happy at half-time in the Scottish Cup final. I thought that we were in control in the Scottish Cup final, 2 goals up. But that game, I think, as a whole, reminds me more of the Hibs victory at Celtic Park, the 3-0 victory there, where it was very much a comfortable day, all in. And we'll go through some of the performances, because obviously we now have 2 eyes firmly on the match at Ibrox now, Kevin, which we can focus on. But obviously the big surprise, and I've not had a chance to speak to you about this, on the team lines as they were announced, was the returning Barkas. Were you surprised, and how did you feel that he performed today?
I was surprised that he came back. I couldn't really understand the thinking, but then when you see Neil Lennon's rationale for it, that's probably why he's a football manager and I'm not, because his rationale is spot on. Look, he needs to go for experience. He is an experienced goalkeeper. What he says about Hazard is true. 22 is awfully young for a goalkeeper, and he needs a bit. He needs a bit more experience. And then we spent £5 million on that keeper, and he is our first choice. And he's made that perfectly clear now. I mean, all the debates that we've had for weeks and weeks and months are now ended, because Neil Lennon's came out and says Barkas is our number one. He was brought here as our number one goalie. He didn't have much to do today, and that seems to be the case. It seems to be the case all season. When Barkas has been in or Bain's been in, they don't really seem to have much to do. They really don't, but he'll be pleased with the clean sheet. His handling was well. I like the way that he moves the ball well as well. He seems more like a sweeper keeper. But again, it's still... one game is not going to make a summer for him. He's going to need to, as fans, we're going to need to see him make a match-winning save. We're going to actually need to see him get points for us before we're probably fully committed and got full confidence in him.
Well, if Barkas is the number one, which he undoubtedly is, after Neil Lennon's comments, Kevin, I mean, you could also say he's never been dropped. He dropped out through injury, didn't he, after colliding with Shane Duffy, and this is him just getting back into the side. Would you say that Hazard is number 2, with Bain being the third choice again?
It looks that way. I think what would you do? What would you do to Conor Hazard's confidence if you dropped him even from the match day squad now? I think the coaching staff have got to manage him well, and I think Hazard has proved enough that he is a decent number 2. But then Barkas still needs to convince us as well. I'm saying that, but Lennon's nailed his colours up the tricolour post, and he says Barkas is his number 1. So I would fully expect to see Barkas fin out at the end of the season.
Yeah, and as I say, we're talking about today's performance, but with a look ahead to the Rangers game, of course. And you've already mentioned Frimpong. Very impressed with Frimpong throughout that game. The criticism that's always been levied at him is this final ball. I think he played plenty of final balls into the box. Kevin, is this something that he's overcoming, this element of his game that has been criticised throughout the season?
It's maybe just more experienced as he gets. He's still a young laddie, and I think we kind of forget that in the number of games that he's played for us. He is still young, he is still learning the game. And look, he's got more options to hit in the box now with Griffiths and Eddie being there, and also with the late arriving midfielders, whoever the midfield is. That midfield diamond works. It really does work with the players there because they're full of energy. And if you actually noticed, and you probably would have saw it better at the game, even though Ryan Christie set up on the right-hand side, Turnbull in the middle, Turnbull in the middle, and McGregor on the left-hand side. One for the blooper reel, my word. They all interchanged, they all moved. They all really did move, and the only one that sat was Sorrell. Sorrell was the only one that held position the whole game, in a good way. And I'm not saying the other ones were all out of position, they were undisciplined. They were doing actually what it looked like they had been told to do, which was move about, cause confusion, cause chaos. And we can actually just go back and go, where's Turnbull been all season? Where's Turnbull been all season? Was that 4 goals in 4 games, is it? 3 and 4 or something like that?
4 and 6, Kev. Yeah. And,
I mean, he had a man marking him the day. Willie Collum seemed to be marking him for the whole game today. That's one of my bugbears about referees as well, as referees getting in the way of the game, but his goal was cracking, and was it Laura? It says in the comments about him being the new Paul McStay. Well, come on, I'm buzzing tonight. I may as well get on that bus at least for 48 hours.
Well, we've spoken about Hazard and how he's dropped out for today's game, Kevin. I would go as far to say Sorrell and Turnbull are undroppable at this moment in time, which means both of them should start against Rangers. What's your thoughts on that?
Without a doubt, the more that you look at that 4-4-2, you can't play Scott Brown in that 4-4-2 because he lacks the energy of the 4 that are already in there. The last couple of times against Rangers, we've been out-battered in the middle of the park, outnumbered in the middle of the park. With that 4-4-2, we're not going to get outnumbered. The weakness is on the wings, because you need a lot of energy on the wings. You're going to need whoever the fullbacks are. I think it will be Frimpong, and I'm still not 100% sure about the left-hand side right enough, but you need the energy to play that system. And if you're bringing back in Scott Brown, then you haven't got the energy to play that system. If you're bringing back in Scott Brown, you're losing one of the centre forwards. That's the thing. And now I can see the reason for bringing back in Brown, but Scott Brown hasn't worked against them the last 5 times. They've overrun us the last 5 times. And even though results have went our way on some occasions, Scott Brown is maybe just a smokescreen, and people get involved in stocks. It's like Brown getting involved with Naismith and that. Maybe we need to try something else. Maybe we need to take Brown out the equation and go, look, you're going to need to actually try and deal with something else there, rather than Scott Brown, rather than trying to get one over Scott Brown.
Well, it's an unknown quantity for Rangers, isn't it, to play Sorrell. They know all about Turnbull from his time at Motherwell, Kevin. But yeah, you're absolutely right. If there's a battle to be had, and you use the Scottish Cup final as an example of that, Halliday and Naismith, Scott Brown's your man. We would expect maybe Arfield to be missing from the starting lineup, Ryan Jack as well. So I would be inclined to say, very, very few changes from that team that started today, and that includes 2 up front. I would be pretty disappointed if there was any tinkering to be done up top. Now, I know Edouard probably didn't have his best game, probably could have scored a few more goals than he did, Kevin, that's fine, but, he is creating space, he is creating chances. He does seem far more involved when he's got someone like Griffiths round about him. And I think the only disappointment about the 2 of them today is Griffiths didn't get on the score sheet, because he had a few decent chances, run his socks off until he was substituted. But right down the centre of that park, I wouldn't make a change. We're going to come back to the centre half position in a second to see how we're going to deal with that. But on the left hand side, you said you've got a bit of a doubt in relation to Laxalt and whether he should start at Ibrox. We've seen him against Rangers before. I thought he performed pretty well, I've got to say, at Celtic Park. Do you think Lenny will start with Taylor or Laxalt against Rangers?
I was surprised to see Laxalt today in the starting lineup, I must admit. I thought after Taylor getting the nod against Hamilton that we were maybe looking at Taylor playing the next until the sort of mini break that we're going to have after the 2nd of January. Laxalt's got a lot of energy to play in that role. He's probably got more energy than Taylor, but I think Taylor is more disciplined, and going to Ibrox could be the place for a more disciplined fullback, especially on one side. That's my thinking, and it wouldn't surprise me whatsoever to see Taylor coming back in.
Interesting. I don't see many other changes, but of course there was a collision between Julien and the post. As you said before we came online, it was a pivotal moment of the game, Kevin, because a goal back for Dundee United at that stage could have completely changed the rest of the game. It was a brave decision by Julien. It was a good goal line clearance. How serious do you think that is? And if he misses a game, which looks likely, Beaton or Duffy?
He was caught with the ball across the top, and Barkas comes out, forces the guy to... Was it actually going in? I don't think it was going in. I think it was bouncing by the post. But obviously, Big Julien and desperation to make up for getting caught out in the first place. He was fantastic. He was fantastic. Get that ball, if it was going in or not. But it was an awful thud, especially when with the crowd not there. He actually heard it.
Sorry, did you say a thud or a fud? Because obviously there's 2 completely different meanings there, Kev. You could hear it. You could hear it certainly from where I was sitting.
You could hear it, and that brings a problem. That actually does bring a problem for us. We were talking before we came on air there that I reckon Beaton or Bitten or whatever we want to call him nowadays came on because we were going to have a lot of the ball. If Julien doesn't make Saturday, I reckon we'll see Duffy.
And do you think that's due to the fact that you would expect us to be defending for spells of that game?
Yes.
All out attack.
I do think that Beaton only got the shout today because we were dominating the ball.
Yeah.
And it suited his style more than what it would have suited Duffy's.
What do we know about our team just now that we didn't know an hour and a half, 2 hours ago, Kevin, going into this game against Rangers?
I think we see a team that's got a bit of confidence back. They seem to be playing with a bit of vibrancy. They seem to be on the same wavelength in the final third, and that's been missing for months. There was a lot of good interchanging. There was a lot of good. We just seem to be playing with a bit of bounce and a bit of energy and a bit of verve, which is something that's been missing. We did play okay against Hamilton, but that was better today. That was a step up a day against better opposition. So while I was maybe a bit critical after the Hamilton game, I'm not over the moon with this, but I'm actually well pleased with this. I'm well pleased with we can't ask for much more going into what is probably our biggest domestic game of the season on Saturday.
Definitely. I mean, we've spoken a lot about Soro, and quite rightly so. He's been a revelation since he's come in, Kevin. Apparently he was only left out of the Scottish Cup final due to food poisoning. To be honest with you, I think he probably would have made way for Scott Brown in any case, given some of the hints that Neil Lennon was given leading up to that game. But what does it do for McGregor's performances? How impressed have you been with Callum McGregor over the last half a dozen games or so?
I think McGregor's playing with a freedom McGregor's playing with a freedom that we saw. No, remember Scott Brown got injured against Hibs when Brendan Rodgers was there, and it was Cham, Rogic and McGregor.
Yep.
This is what this midfield's reminded me of, that period where it's dynamic, it's moving the ball quickly, it's always on the front foot, and Brown completely changes the shape of how Callum McGregor plays. McGregor seems quite comfortable, and all the three lads, McGregor, Turnbull and Christie all feel quite comfortable with Soro behind them to clean up, to break up the play. And Soro likes a wee forward pass as well. He's always on the front foot as well. McGregor, I think, I did actually have a look at it. McGregor had 96 touches of the ball today. 96 touches of the ball, and after it there was Soro with 86. So that shows you the two main men that were on the ball for us today. I think the problem that we've got with Callum McGregor is we're just that used to Callum McGregor being Callum McGregor. We're that used to him having a 7, 8 out of 10 performance that sometimes you don't notice what he actually gives to the side. What I have noticed in the last couple of days or couple of games is he doesn't seem to be getting caught in that defensive, like trying to track back and getting caught. When you think back to the AC Milan game when him and Miguel Hamid got absolutely roasted for the 2 Milan goals, that seems to have disappeared for his game since Soro's came there. So look, Soro's been a revelation. Turnbull's been a revelation. They seem to have rejuvenated that side, so it's all good.
No, they have, and I remember back to the time of Gordon Strachan where the introduction of Paul Hartley and Barry Robson reinvigorated the title charge. Kevin, you'll remember it well, and we look back on that change within the team as being pivotal to us winning the league. Do you think, given the run of games that we've had in the last half dozen, that Celtic are now on the cusp, should we get a victory at Ibrox, of turning our season around?
There's still a long, long way to go. And it depends what happens on Saturday and what happens in the next 4 weeks. I think the next 4 weeks will go a long way to see how much goodwill the club's going to get for the fans going into next season. So it's a big, big 4 weeks. They have made noises that they're not going to sell anybody. Neil Lennon has came out and says, well, I haven't really got any targets. So the next 4 weeks are massive for the whole future of Celtic Football Club, or the short-term future of Celtic Football Club. And I'm not building this up to be a bigger game than what it was. Even if we were 19 points clear, this month, January, would still be a massive, massive month, because we've got to give the fans something to come back for next year. And the next 4 weeks are massive for that.
What did you make, Kevin, of the comments made by Neil Lennon when he was looking ahead to January, talking about the transfer window, the fact that he believes he's got a balance to his side? He's not looking to dip his toe back into the transfer market, and buy anybody. You've got a situation at the moment where, where's our recognised right backs? We don't have many in that position. James Forrest gets a bad injury, and we've been really lacking on the right hand side of the park as a result of that most of the season. We've lacked here and there throughout the team. Centre half's been an issue. The goalkeeper, let's be honest, has been an issue as well. We've played 3 goalkeepers, throughout the first half of this season. So, did you make that? Did you take that with a pinch of salt? What Neil Lennon was saying, he's just being coy. He's obviously been careful as to what messages he's sending to the existing squad.
I mean, it's a horrendous question to get asked to open a press conference. It is a horrendous question, and I think he's been coy. I think he can't come out and say that he's desperate for this position, that position, because then teams will just fire up their prices and be quite and be quite tough to actually negotiate with. Look, El Hamed's made noises that he wants to go back. He wants to go back to Israel for personal reasons, and we do need another right back. Unless I think we need another right back to come in. I think he's been a quite coy, and I think that any player, unless it all goes completely tits up on Saturday, really, really tits up on Saturday, we'll be looking to bring in loan guys for now at the end of the season just to fill gaps. They'll only be coming in as starters, will be coming in to fill gaps in the squad.
That reminds me of the last transfer window that Brendan Rodgers was involved in, Kevin. Remember, where we needed the right back, we bring in Toljan, who very quickly was dropped for Mikael Lustig. We brought in Ole Burke, didn't we? And Timo Weah was the other one. Where, as you say, we just needed bodies to fill certain areas of the park, even if it meant, an improvement in the player that they were brought in to apparently replace. In the case of Lustig ended up having a decent second half to that season. So do you think that would be the same kind of approach this time round?
I think it will be the same kind of approach. I mean, you could look at Lennon's comments as saying, we've blew all the money already, we've got no money to spend in January unless we sell somebody, and we're going to rebuild in the summer, because there is already hints getting dropped in that the players are going to move on in the summer. So the rebuild's going to happen in the summer. So you could actually see just guys coming in loan to give the place a bit of freshness, like Burke and the three guys that you mentioned, who didn't really make an impact for us. Who didn't really make an impact at all, but they gave us that freshness that we needed.
Yeah.
After the winter break, so we may see that again, but I can't see any long-term players coming in. I think we're in too much of a state of flux. What's going to happen next season for us to spend big in January?
No, you're right. 2 massive transfer windows in a row. I can't see it. Have we ever done it before? We've never spent massively twice in a row, have we, Kevin? And let's be honest, the last transfer window was a huge investment by the club. So let's have a look at some of the comments coming in. Stephen Forbes, who's a regular contributor to this show. Julian aside, that was exactly the result and performance needed ahead of Saturday. I would agree with that. Beaton has experience of derbies and isn't a bad replacement. Kev, give us a final analogy to sum up 2020. You want to have a think about that and I'll come back to you?
I'll have a think about that and come back to you.
The analogizer, right. Are you going to get that printed out and put it up maybe beside Schema Celica behind you?
I am going to get it framed. I'm definitely going to get it framed.
Good man. Sean F., probably the best performance I've seen all season, bar the Hibs home game. Yeah, that was one of the matches that came to my mind, Sean. Edouard finally getting that much needed goal as well from open play. What a finish. He does show what he can do. There's so many times, Kevin, where he gets that ball, sometimes we'll be back to goal, and there's 3 or 4 guys around him. Somehow, he still manages to wiggle his way through the packed defence. Some of these chances that we're getting, we're going to get a game where they come off. We're going to get a 5-0. We're going to get a 6-0. By the way, it'd be nice if it was Ibrox, but we're going to get a game like that. You can see it today, 3-0. It could easily have been a 5-0. Hamilton 3-0. You know, there was a few chances that Beaton should have scored, a couple of chances that Eddie could have scored. We are going to start annihilating teams. I can see it from the performances.
Hopefully it will come. I mean, you look at it. You look at the game against Hamilton, and today, the last 15 minutes today, I think we had four clear-cut opportunities that we should have scored, and that's no me being negative to actually say we should have scored. We should have scored them, and as I said right at the start, 3-0 flattered Dundee United. That final score of 3-0 flattered Dundee United, and I didn't know how much more positive I can be to actually say that scoreline flattered them, and we need to continue like that. Sunday or Saturday, whenever we play Rangers, it's a completely different game, but we can't ask for anything else going into that game. We can't ask for anything else. We haven't really got any major questions. If this game would have been 6 weeks ago, we would have been tearing our hair out at this point, going into Saturday. We're not really tearing our hair out. I've still got a bit of caution going into it, but hey, you're always got a bit of caution going into these games, because anything can actually happen in a derby if you want to use all the cliches in the world. The form goes out the window and all that rubbish. The form doesn't really go out the window. But look, 3 wins in a week. We've done a quadruple treble. we can't ask for much more in December. So you can't ask for much more in December.
The big question is always, have Celtic turned a corner? I think the one thing that I would take from it, Kevin, is we're certainly out of that rut. I don't know if we've turned a corner yet, but we're out of that rut that we were in, whereby, we were talking that's 2 wins in 12. If it goes into 2 wins in 13, we're digging out records from the 1940s when Celtic nearly got relegated. We stayed in the division on the last day of the season. We're out of that rut, that's for sure. I do believe that. It's frustrating when you look back at some of the games that we were in control of. For example, Easter Road, nothing each at half time, we end up going 2-0 down. St Johnstone, we were in control of that game. We went a goal down. We ended up losing 4 points in those 2 games. And these are the games that you look back on. You can rue those four points that you've dropped in games like that, where you looked at the fact that we were in control, but there was something missing in these games. And now I don't think there is, because what you've now got is you've got the breakaways being broken up by Sorrow. You've got us when we're struggling to break through a side, Turnbull striking something from 30 yards that nestles in the back of the net. So I wouldn't say we've turned a corner as such, but we're certainly out of that rut, that depressing rut that we were in. It just so happens that Rangers haven't dropped a single point during the period that we have started stringing these wins together.
We can only bother about ourselves, though. We can only do what we can do, which is win the games that are in front of us. And Saturday's one of those games. There's another one of those games. We can only win the games that are in front of us. So Saturday's just another game for us to actually go and try and win. And we'll see what happens. And I know what you're saying, turning corners and stuff like that. Ask us in April if we've turned the corner. If this was this, only history will tell us if we turned the corner in December.
We will ask you in April, Kevin, because we'll still be doing this bulletin. Joseph Hill, loving the avatar. I thought Christie was very good today. Sorry, Colin, if you're watching. We all know Colin's not the biggest fan of Ryan Christie. I was actually surprised that he picked him in the starting lineup today, Kevin. I did think that Christie had a very good game in terms of the overall team performance, Kevin. I said that at the beginning of the game today. If Christie plays his part, he's far more effective than the Christie that tries to cover every blade of grass and do the job with 2 or 3 different players. What you said earlier was spot on. Him and Turnbull were able to rotate their positions, and and you could see that, and it was very effective. I think Christie is far more effective if he's disciplined within his role rather than trying to be the match winner every single week.
I think Turnbull's maybe took a bit of pressure off him. The fact there's another creative player in the middle of that park, and also Callum McGregor can now join them. So everything is not on his shoulders. One thing I'm going to say about Christie, and this will get brung up over the next couple of days, he hasn't really ever had a good game against Rangers since he's been with us. Mm-hmm. So he's due us one. He missed a penalty. He missed a penalty. That would have been round about.
That was a year ago.
He missed the penalty, that's right. Mm-hmm. So he's due us one. So hopefully he's due us a 30-yarder into the top corner with a minute to go for us to win 2-0.
The 2-1 game at Celtic Park on the day that I went vegetarian. Don't know how that's connected, but it does stick in my mind. Christie missed a penalty that day, didn't he?
He did, aye. It was a poor penalty.
Yeah, it was. And French Edouard, Glasgow Celtic. Sorrow gets the ball off quick and always forward. So impressed. There's a lot of love for Ismaila Sorrow, and it's frustrating, Kevin, because they must have been seeing him day after day at training, turning in performances. I remember when his name would pop up in the comment section time and time again, but it was coming up with guys like Luca Connell, and I thought, well, I know about as much as I do about Connell, So I wasn't calling for Sorrow to get a game. He comes in and he's been absolutely superb so far, and a big part of us hopefully turning this corner that we can talk about in April, because you don't want to commit to that at this moment in time, Kev. There's a couple of big bold statements coming in as well. What do you think of this from Callum Hardy? We win at Ibrox, we win the league. I think what you're looking at there is some kind of capitulation over on the south side.
That's what you're looking at. You're looking at, you're trying, as you say, as we've got out of the rut, Rangers have just sort of carried on winning, and that's a good habit to get into. It's a great habit. It's why we've won 9 titles in a row and 12 trophies in a row. It's because we've got into a habit. As when we're not actually playing well, we've still managed to win games. So we can only bother about ourselves. We can only bother about ourselves, and what will happen to them will happen to them. And the only way that we can influence is what happens to them is when we play them, and that turns up on Saturday.
Yeah.
So we've got the chance. We can't just keep on looking and go, they're going to drop points here, they're going to drop points there. We've just got to get on with it. We've just got to take care of your business.
No, you're spot on. And we keep saying it, Kevin, but obviously we need to ensure that we drop nothing else, because these points, particularly the ones against Hibs and St Johnstone, are going to be very frustrating come the latter part of this campaign. Scott Graham, Lenny hopeful for Julien, so that's the update on Julien. If he does make it in terms of his fitness, Kevin, would you stick with the team that we started today?
The only fault, if Julien's fit, then I would change the left back. I would put Taylor at left back, and I would go with that side. I think sometimes Scott Brown acts as a distraction. We've been out-coached by Rangers at the last number of times that we've played them, and we need to give them something different to think about. I go back to Martin O'Neill. I remember Martin O'Neill with Alex McLeish and what's his face, Big Lovencrans always used to run riot against us. Mm-hmm. Then all of a sudden, Martin O'Neill went to a flat back four and they never beat us for about 7 or 8 games in a row because O'Neill just back-pocketed them. I think we need to look at doing something like that. We've got to try something different against them, rather than going in and just hoping the 4-2-3-1 works. And so hopefully Lennon gets his big boy pants on, as I've been telling in the comments a couple of times, and goes with that 4-4-2. And if it fails, it fails. At least then we can actually go, well, you tried something different. But at this precise moment in time, I can't see it failing. I can't see us not coming away from Ibrox with a result.
Well, Kevin, we will be covering every single second, every minute, every single nuance of Celtic's performance, team selection and everything that goes with that. One last message, hail from Cluj, Transylvania. Marius here from Romania, CSC. We paid them a wee visit actually last year, the Romanian CSC. Obviously I was just on the juice, but it was an enjoyable visit nonetheless. And one final one actually, Aero 250. The chat room is now mostly positive, Kevin. How does that make you feel? Are you embracing that positivity? I'm
embracing that positivity, apart from the folk who are calling me a chooter and hating my accent. But not everybody can love me. Is
that still a thing? Are you still getting criticised?
A salt and sauce accent, seemingly. I don't know. I'm salt and vinegar. Stirling salt and vinegar. Salt and vinegar.
You just answered it by saying, I dinna ken. So, you know. We'll leave it at that, Kev. But listen, if I don't catch up with you before the new year, have a good one. And for everybody who's tuning in, I'll be back tomorrow at 12:30 as normal, and I can wish you a happy new year then. So thanks everybody for getting involved, and thank you, Kevin Graham, for joining me on A Celtic State of Mind.